Good morning.
Good morning.
Morning.
Hello. Hello.
Morning.
Good morning. Let me just check a quick option here. Let's see. All right. Well, hello. So here we are again, meeting in these crazy days, in this wild year. I hope everybody's all right. Um, Somehow even in the midst of really probably the most bizarre year that I can think of, even though I'm double your age, things just continue to get stranger. I don't know what it is. But, just a couple quick words before we jump into today's material. Somehow, however you do it, make sure that you preserve yourself. You're obviously physically, but also mentally and emotionally. And if you happen to be a pretty emotional person, I consider myself one, you may be very angry right now because there's a lot to be angry about or sad. And that's as it has to be, but it doesn't last. But sometimes things get this crazy, so that changes that need to be made get made. If you happen to think that, for example, race issues are hopeless in this country, no, they're not. There is hope, but it's just freaking slow. It's just incredibly slow. I'm old enough. I went to high school in the 1970s, early 80s, and believe it or not, it was so much worse. It was so much worse. Could you believe it ever being worse? But we stuck with it and made a big difference. I think your generation is really exciting to me because I feel like there might have been an apathetic window between my age and your age where people were like just too tired to care. But your generation seems to care. I mean, the numbers of people are trying to express themselves. We don't have to agree on how we're expressing ourselves right now. But just the fact that people care enough to want to, in large numbers globally, is new. Changes are going to be made. And will they be fast enough? No. No, they won't be fast enough. That sucks. But will they get made? Yes, they will. Yes, they will. So anyway, to any of you who've been finding ways to protest, however way that is, I want to congratulate you. I really do hope you manage somehow not to forget that we already had another epidemic, health epidemic. Young folks, a lot of people feel invincible because the statistics are in your favor, but a lot of you live with people that aren't that young. So like if you are going out to protest and all, please do your best to stay as safe as you can. If you have lotion, to bring, and wear your mask as much as possible. Try not to get in squeeze spaces. I know you may feel like you need to protest right now. I'm not going to be the one to argue with it.
I already went twice.
Did you? My daughter and my wife went, and there's other illnesses in my family that I have to look out for, and I cannot get sick. If I get sick, everybody, the whole clan falls apart right now. So I literally cannot. My wife is similar, but she had to go anyway. She just had to. So I congratulate you for going. But please, again, you all know the rules. You know what you got to do. You touch as little as possible. You don't let anyone breathe on you. You wash your hands. You use alcohol if you can get it. All those. You know how all the media we were seeing before was about how to be kind to each other by social distancing, right before. And we're all taking that very seriously. At least most of us were. And then this other event. Recent events brought something that's been going on all along to the front, and now some people are just ignoring one for the other. Unfortunately, we can't ignore either. Can't ignore either. And frankly, I would like to see race in this country move to an evolved place so we could start paying attention also to be very blunt. Another group that's heavily on my mind all the time are Native Americans, because you almost never hear an outreach about how destroyed they are, to be blunt. And anyone in here may be Native American. I apologize for those harsh words. But, we kind of ignore just about everything that they're dealing with. I'd like to see a turn come where the world gets as loud for them too. But really right now, we got to stick with what we're doing. I want to say I'm very supportive of it. Anyway, guys, please stay healthy. Please keep your families healthy. And while you do it, be loud. Be loud while you're doing it, however you figure out how to do it. I want to say one thing, because frankly, the skills you're learning with me are great skills for activists to have. You could see, like, if you continue with these kinds of skills, how many ways you'll have to speak out loud and be heard. I'll bet you some of you've got Instagram accounts with a lot of traffic, or Facebook or whatever. Those are people who hear. Imagine what you could do with a website anyway, you know what I'm saying. Communication is powerful. They used to say the pen is mightier than the sword. In many cases, that's true. In many cases, that's true. If you can get more pay attention. What would help? Well, websites, text, photos that make a point. We've been all dealing with that, video, etc. Even animation, educational animation. And how do we figure out how to start pulling together? How do we finally figure that out? I don't know. I want to say something to you about this group right here. We're wildly diverse, right? We don't really have the time for it. But if everybody felt like talking, oh, this is my background, we'd all be like, wow, really? I never heard of that place. Or what's it like? Or, do you ever go there? We'd all be trying to, some of us don't even know what our backgrounds were because your ancestors were kidnapped. A lot of our ancestors ran for their lives. So it's not pretty what brought most of us here, but it still is fascinating. And something though, this school didn't exist, a school like this 20 years ago, which is proof that we're doing better, which is proof. We don't have fighting in our halls in our school. If you go to local restaurants or local bars, you see the kids of all different colors chilling out, having a beer together. And that did not happen when I was 20, and happens now. It may not happen everywhere, but it sure happens in New York, and it happens in other places where people have begun to grow wiser. We got a long way to go. But like, wow, that's a big difference. We are crazy diverse at the MCC. Thank God for that. Happily diverse. All right, let me jump back in. I want to tell you what we're doing today. I hope you guys have been enjoying Photoshop. I just love it personally. I just love it. And what's so great about it, it's so artistically powerful and communication-wise powerful, but it's also incredibly commercially useful. I can't hardly think of any industry that doesn't need Photoshop. If you're in web design, we all could see the obvious application there. But if you're in print, magazines and newspapers, if you're in packaging, you need Photoshop. Frankly, if you're in business and the notices are going out, or the PowerPoint presentations, God, I hate PowerPoint, but you'd have to, do it better with better imagery. It's one safe place to invest your time. Folks, I just want to take a quick look at my chat, which, I've been trying to do better at. Gotcha. Jessica, feel free to log off early if you have to for that other professor. I totally understand that. So anyway, and it's fun, right? Photoshop, and it's fun. All of that, and it's fun. All right, so I want to do more Photoshop today, and I want to take the skills that we've been building on the last 2 classes, take them further today. Yes, Essentia?
I emailed you earlier. My Photoshop, it doesn't work right now.
Did you get I wrote you back.
I for some reason, I just never got it. I don't know.
No, well, I wrote you back only like 20 minutes ago.
Oh, like I checked my emails, but I haven't seen it yet. It probably will come late.
Oh, that's weird.
Oh, I see it. I see it now.
You do see
now
it?
I see
So
it.
I have
Yeah.
instructions for you. So guys, I just want to say a couple quick things about tech problems in your computer. Some of them are such cliches. You've heard it before, but you might not believe it. So many problems are fixed by shutting down your computer.
I did that, but it still didn't. And I uninstall it, and I installed it again, but it just didn't.
And it's still not working.
Yeah.
Oh, that's really weird. So it was working at some point and then stopped working?
It was, but yesterday, when I opened it, it didn't open. It opens, but it's just a blank screen. It doesn't open anything else.
Wow. So it worked for a while, then it didn't work. Then you took the real steps. You shut down the computer, you restarted, you deinstalled and reinstalled completely, and it's still acting exactly the same?
Yeah.
All right, computer wizards. Jonathan, you're my fave computer wizard lately. You have anything to say on this?
I'd have to look at her screen.
Right. So, Essentia, we can't really stop to do that kind of tech support during class, but maybe after class,
Yeah.
maybe John would take a look for you because he's better at I think, at hardware and software stuff, or maybe between us. I know others here also have that experience, but I'm surprised. It's very rare that I hear an issue like that that's not fixed by a reinstall. You know, that
Probably sometimes it has to do with the updates. I had to stop my update because when I did it, it created some temporary profile. So
oh, you sound like you know what
I
you're
had to
doing.
stop the Windows updates for that. Yeah. So I don't know if it has to do with it.
That's interesting. So listen, I apologize that I can't stop. You can imagine it would take quite a while, and
Yeah.
I'm not at liberty to do that. So you know, watch, take notes. You know, it's on
Yeah,
the
that's what I'm
video.
going to do.
You know, you'll be fine. You sound like you know what you're doing too. So
Yeah.
these things are always a headache, and then you find like, oh, now I got it.
Yeah.
So I want to tell you what I have in store for you, though, in a larger sense, everybody. So you know, we've been using montage, it's semi-realistic montage, as a way to talk about other things like sizing and photo correction. So I want to back out for a minute. If you were working at a magazine today, the two things you do in Photoshop the most would be photo enhancement. Let me call it that. That's better than correction. Photo enhancement and sizing. You know, that would be like your day-to-day stuff. Because I want you to notice something. The next time you look in a magazine, ask yourself, how many photos are the shape that you expect from a camera? You know, like you expect this, you know, a rectangle, not a square, right? Whether it's upright or sideways from a camera, they all shoot the same shape mostly. Then there's the phone shapes, which are not quite the same, but, you know, similar. But if you look at a magazine, you'll see all kinds of rectangles that are not typical of the device. I'll admit, you don't see a lot of circles. You surely see very few triangles, but you don't, you know, you see squares, for example, and cameras don't shoot square unless you buy a specialized camera. So that means people are photoshopping all of that for the sake of the layout. So we're going to have to get to that. Now, we've been using image size, image menu, image size, which we're going to do again today. We'll do more montage, more enhancement, levels, maybe some color, maybe some taking out stuff that doesn't work well for the photo with the clone tool. So that's all review, but upgraded. But then I want to talk about a different aspect of exporting. We did some exporting, you know, mostly to get JPEGs. But what if you need a specific shape first? You know, you wanted a square. So I want to do all that today. I do want to give you a heads up, though. So I'm going to screen share. It always helps me make sure I don't forget stuff before we go to Photoshop. So give me a minute. Again, I'm choosing desktop, as I always do after screen sharing. And I want to show you this. So folks, I got a few things to cover. I'm going to do it kind of quickly. The midterm will begin on Wednesday. Now, I'm not going to answer questions today about the midterm, but I will tomorrow. And I want to tell you what the plan is, though, to get us there. So tomorrow's Tuesday, and we're going to do more Photoshop, but with HTML and CSS. And I'm going to do that just to warm us back up to it. I got to tell you something. You really all have the skills for the midterm already. It's a 4-page website, and we've done that a couple times. The big difference is I'm giving you real words for each page, so it's going to have to take some organization, you know, and real photos that go with those words, and the subject's graffiti. And I will definitely talk more about it tomorrow and plenty about it on Wednesday. I don't have my schedule in front of me right now, but we're going to give it at least a couple days. Plus, I'm going to give you extra time on your own to do it. So I'll tell about deadlines and all of that tomorrow, right? Oh, by the way, this is how I stay sane. I just peek at the next couple days, but I don't, one day at a time. So tomorrow we'll review what you need to feel confident about it. We'll also, warm up, but mostly Wednesday, it's going to be devoted to the midterm, probably Thursday. I don't remember off the top of my head, but probably just those two. Then I'll give you a few days more on your own. One thing that's weird for me, and I've never done this online before, so this is going to be new, is I do the midterm as a kind of learning tool, not just as a grading tool. So typically I do walk around in the real classroom, and if someone's stuck on something, I'll sit down, I'll help. Look, I know it's a test, but what the hell? It helps push someone a little bit forward. So I don't know what I'm going to do if I try to imitate that online. I guess it'll be a lot of screen sharing. So I'm planning on getting us all started. I'll probably just hang around here, really, read a book or something while people work, so people can stop and ask me questions. You know, it'll be like a midterm in the class, but that's the gist of it, right? I think next week we're going to be moving into different material entirely. You know, fun stuff's coming up: video, animation, sound design, lots of cool stuff. Anybody have any immediate questions about next couple days, maybe? No? All right, let me just take a quick look here. So if you didn't get today's assets, you might want to get them while I'm talking, right? That's class 8 assets. You can get it right from here or from the home page, either one. I do want to say a little bit more about this whole question about extracting. Just to Windows people for a minute. You know, Mac people, you kind of have it easy. You just do it the same way I will. I'm about to get my assets. Windows people, you also have it kind of easy. We discovered what the confusion was. At least Jonathan helped figure that out the first time we worked with assets. But I just want to mention what extract is, because I'm probably not going to discuss it again. So I mentioned to you my animation class had problem with the zips. And they had no problem when they were just using parts. They only had problems when they were trying to import something from my zipped folder into software. So they were trying to import, say, a sound into their animation program. And then they wouldn't work. And there was all kinds of confusion. And I'm not an expert on it. But if the person extracted everything from the folder before they even got started, you know, I used to think just unzipping, but this extraction word is a Windows thing. They were able to import without any problems. So I want to tell you something about us, though, in MMP100. I have not seen any extraction problems in this class. So if you're feeling overwhelmed, just ignore that part. I want to show you something to make this a little more tangible. So I had this options regarding Windows business, and I updated it a little bit. So I just want to show it to you. I'm clicking my own link. So I numbered them 1 and 2. I want to say something to everybody on Windows in here. I would do number 1 if I had Windows at home. Maybe I'd work with number 2. But about number 1, that has nothing to do with extractions. And I rewrote the text. It says it's about extensions. So if you had a file in it, and in it was dog.psd, dog.html, and dog.mp4, right? So you had a photograph, a web page, and a movie, all called dog. It would get really confusing if you couldn't see the part that said PSD. That's an extension, .html, .mp4. They'd have different icons, but as you might have seen, computers are not always right about the icons. Sometimes incorrect icons show up, even when they open correctly. So I don't want you to count on that. So if you rig up your computer to always show extensions, you never get confused. So this is the closest I could get. These are the steps I would take in the Windows lab at school. And for the, you know, if it's your own computer, it'll stay that way. So every time you open a folder, you'll see these extensions. Folks, if you're thinking, Ira, my computer already does that, please ignore this. You know, it's only if it's not. And will this work on every version of the Windows operating system? Probably similar. I don't know that they're exactly the same. I want to just say about this part, because I don't want to really discuss this again. This is that whole extraction issue. You know, what really is the difference between double clicking a zip, which turns it into a folder, and extraction? I can't tell you. I don't have Windows. But it's only when importing stuff that the problem started. So I give a whole speech here. I got to tell you, though, I don't think we're going to have any problem in this class. I was wrong when I thought it was our problem, and it really isn't. So this is just for people who are interested. If you got enough on your hands, please ignore number 2. I think you're fine. Number 1, I highly recommend. Did anybody have any questions about those I could try to answer? All right, that's not the important stuff, so I want to get to the important stuff. Let me get back here. I know, you know, I'm looking at faces here, and even let me just open up my screen for 1 second here. And even just names, I see I've got the, you know, the core group of people that come to every class live who can do that, which I really respect. I see one person on their phone even, which I also really respect. So I just want to say something about Photoshop. So, you know, for a while we were just using Sublime, really, you know, in the browser, you know, Chrome, but mostly Sublime. And then we moved into just Photoshop the last couple of days. Today's also just Photoshop. Tomorrow's going to be both Photoshop and Sublime. The midterm, and I want to be really, really clear about this, about the midterm. The midterm will definitely need Sublime, and will definitely benefit highly from having Photoshop. A web designer keeps changing their mind, for example, about what photo to use. Or this rectangle photo didn't look good, it would look better at a square. And to do that, you need Photoshop. But I do want to be fair. Could someone get a good grade on the midterm without Photoshop? Actually, you could. It's not ideal, but I want to tell you why. The photos I'm going to give you, a lot of them came from the web. So they're already reasonable shapes and reasonable sizes. You know, so one could just use those and do a beautiful website. So let me back up. Most of you want it all. So you want Sublime and Photoshop at your fingertips. If anyone's in trouble, just wants to get started on the midterm, they could actually do it without Photoshop in this case, because the photos, many of them are pre-prepared, not all. So you'll see those photos in a couple days. Just wanted to say that. Again, if you're still struggling to get Photoshop, you know, you really should look at the Class 6 handout, which had the best details. You could definitely also email me with any questions. I'll always do my best to answer. All right, and this is the same link for all the videos. They're all up for every class so far. Now listen, I want to tell you a couple things. We're not going to go in the order. I changed my mind about the order, but I do want to say a couple quick things about the rest of this handout. Early on, I forgot which one of you it was, but somebody asked me really intelligent, mature questions about legality and finding images online. Was that you, Jonathan? So I finally got to it. I told you that I would. And I need to talk to you about it because these steps change, and I swear, they change like every month or every couple of months. It's very irritating. And every time I think I'm ready to go, I always test my work first, my lessons. I'm like, oh no, Google changed this again? So I'm going to give you a by-the-moment explanation of how to do this right very soon. I don't want to start here because I got a better way to do this. We're going to go over some basic Photoshop stuff, things that we've already tried. We're just going to go deeper with it. I want to teach you Quick Mask today, which is very advanced. You're going to love it. It's one of the best parts of Photoshop. We're going to hold off. And the all-powerful crop tool. This is my favorite sizing tool, which I haven't shared with you yet. This is the one that I use the most, because not only size. See, image menu, which we're going to do again, image size, is good for sizing, but not good for changing a rectangle to a square. So if you want to, you know, all photos are rectangles, but then you don't want it to be, you have to cut some off. So in the old days, that's the way you do it. Now you do it in Photoshop, and it's going to be the crop tool. So that's our agenda today, mostly Photoshop stuff. Let me drop out of here. I'm hoping everybody got their assets. If you're used to the way we're doing things, you would get your assets, you'd open them up, right? And it would be wise not to work in downloads. Downloads is not where you keep stuff. All right, so I am going to click my own download link, get the assets, it says here, and I'm going to click it. The little arrow quickly pointed down. It's a 14 megabyte file, so depending on your internet connection, it may be very fast, it may be very slow. It's not a tiny file. And I'm on a Mac, so I'm going onto the name, not the little caret. See, the caret gives me cool choices that I'll use sometimes, like find it, where is it? But right now, all I'm going to do is click right on the name. What I like about that, at least on a Mac and Windows people, you could tell me if it worked the same for you. I see the zip, but when I clicked on that little item in the lower left, it unzipped it. So this is the original zip. It means it's compressed. It's good for emailing. This is the folder which you can't email. That's the unzipped version. Now, it's got the stuff in here, and a lazy person could work here, but someone who's a little bit more diligent would drag the folder wherever they want to work, right? I know some of you are super organized. You got your BMCC folder. You could drag it there if you like, or you could drag it to the desktop, which is what I'm going to do today. There's another item there. I'm going to tell it to replace it just because I was messing with it earlier. Then I'm going to go to the desktop. All right, can everybody find your unzipped folder? And I want to point out something. There's an image there called Big Old Room, and we're going to start with that. But inside is a folder called Extra Images. Now, I want you to bear with me for a minute. I don't want you to use this image unless we have trouble with Google Images. This is a backup, this elephant. You'll see why. This is an extra part if we have time, because we're going to put stuff in a room and make them look real. We might put the box in there. This would be funny in the room. I've been kicking this statue around for a while. And here's another random image, really just for fun. We're mostly concerned with the room first. So could everybody open the room in Photoshop? So there's numerous ways. You could drag it down to the Photoshop icon if you have it on your dock and just drop it on Photoshop. You could control click the image on a Mac and use open with, or you could right click the image on Windows. But what the traditional way is what I'm going to do now, just as a good teacher, even though typically I will right click it. Traditionally, you open Photoshop first, so I'm going to do that. You know, Essentia, you know, one thing I want to mention to you is I've seen the splash screen go black a number of times where the program still works. I could still go to the file menu and do file menu open. I don't know if that's the problem for you, but it's worth taking a peek if the file menu works.
I had did that before, but it didn't
behave.
open.
All right.
So Jonathan's helping me right now. He told me
Thanks,
to do something, and it's actually working right now.
Later on, you guys could tell me how you fixed it. I like to learn too. But right now, I'm going to move forward. So I'm going to do file menu open. And you want to find your way to today's folder. So I put mine on the desktop, so I'm going to the desktop first from this thing called the sidebar. Then I see today's folder. I'm going to double click it, right? And I want to open Big Old Room. Big Old Room is what you're opening right now. And if any of you used to Photoshop or just discovered ways that you prefer to do it, that's fine. Now, before you get busy, in Photoshop, you always want to orient yourself. You want to know how big the document is. Now, I want to add something to you, and this is an IRA phrase, so you're not sure other people are going to use it. I call this the host document if I'm making a montage. So the montage, as I've said before, is mixed photos into one image, but I'll usually choose one as the base, what I call the host. I want to say something quickly to any VAT video people. When I make videos, I might do a multiple camera shoot, for example, for a movie, but I will have one that I use as the base video layer. So like if it's a conversation for two people in a garden, I'll have one shot where the camera's far away and I could see both the people talking in the garden. That's my base. Later on, I could do close-ups as one person gets close to the camera and says, hey, you, blah, blah. Then the other person answering, but the base layer keeps everything consistent. I know when the person says whatever, and everyone knows what the environment is. This is a similar idea, the host. The thing is, when it comes to working in Photoshop, the host document establishes a few important things. One, how big's the photo going to be when it's done? Two, how many dots per inch are there? So I want you to join me in two different things. First, let's go to the image menu together, up top. This is one of the most important features. Image menu to image size. Now, you want to make sure it's set to pixels for everything but print. So if you're working with print, you could set it to inches. There's a multimedia class, so we're focused on screen-based art, so I'm going to ask you to choose pixels. So you can see up here that it's 1620 pixels wide, right? And down here, 72 resolution means in every inch, there's 72 dots, right? And in every inch, there's 72 dots. I want to say a couple things about why that matters. First, let's talk about this one. The web is always 72 dots per inch, so this is perfect for a website. Movies will also use 72 dots per inch in many cases, and animation. So this is good news for everything but print. If I was going to do this in print, I might need as much as 300 dots per inch, which would only give me a little over 5 inches if you're good with math. 300 times 5 is 1,500. So I could only do a 5-inch document. It would be like that big. You know, a little disappointing in print. If I wanted to do the cover of a magazine, I couldn't do it. This doesn't have enough pixels. All right, so let's forget print for a minute then. How big's big enough for a website? Okay, guys, if those of you who are going to take more web design classes, ask the teacher lots of questions about web sizes, because it's a tough conversation, right? Websites, as you know, change size. You're walking down the street, it's on your phone. You go home, it's on your computer. So it obviously changes size. So it makes it very hard to figure out what the numbers are. But this is something I'd like to say to you. If you ever need an image that's going to fill the whole website, right? It's going to be between 960 and 2000 pixels. So I want to clarify that because that's a big range, 960 and 2000. 960 is if you're physically making a small website for a reason. There's lots of reasons why people do that. It's an old and very traditional number. Now, if we were going to do 960 wide, this is huge. You know, it's almost twice as big as we need. That doesn't bother me. I love it when things are too big. Later on, I can make it smaller. It does bother me if it's too small. But I want to say something. 960 is the smallest websites you're going to see. You're going to see some websites that are 2000 pixels wide. They're made for different logic, different ways of looking at things. Again, that's out of the realm of this class. This would be too small for that. So I want to tell you what I want to do. I want to use a width that's very common. Give me 1 second here. I just want to check my notes for a minute here. That's very, very common because it's one of the popular video dimensions. Could you go to the width and type in 1280? You notice how the height changed, right? So this is close to a common video size. Again, video also has multiple sizes, so it's not an easy subject. But if you look up top here, it's also showing you that the whole file size got smaller. It's 3 megabytes. It used to be 5. Just quickly, does that matter a lot? Well, it matters a little. For one, if everything's too big, you're going to run out of storage. When it comes to uploading things that are too big are slower. Anyway, it's just good to know when you make something physically smaller, the file size is also smaller. So yours is 1280 pixels wide. Please check that this is pixels, because if you're set to inches, you're going to crash your computer. Because 1280 inches is over 100 feet wide, and you're going to crash the computer. So be real careful. So these are the numbers. All right, let's click OK. I would like everybody to get used to working with your rulers on. Now you're at home. So you turned on your rulers last week. They're probably still on. But if they're not, I want to point out that they're under the View menu. Most programs let you use Command R if you prefer. So I could use that shortcut in most programs. But then I want you to make sure that your rulers are set to pixels. Animators, video people, web designers, always set your rulers to pixels. We don't care about inches. There's nothing like an inch for our fields. You know. So how did we do it? We went up to the ruler and we either right-clicked or control-clicked on the ruler. And you had all these choices. So I'd like you to set it to pixels. You're going to get used to seeing how big things are. You know, so you'll be able to make better decisions with some experience, as long as you have the rulers on. Okay, enough of that. I want to do some fun stuff. So, you know, I want to clean up this messy room a little bit, right? And I needed to zoom in a bit, and I want to say a quick thing about zooming. Have you noticed when you do, have you tried Command plus or Control plus to zoom? The only thing I don't like about it is on my screen, it goes up by 100%. So it's like too much zooming. I want to go in between, right? So I really prefer the navigator. I'm going to get the navigator out. Here it is. This is the navigator here. If you've forgotten the navigator, please go to the window menu. The window menu is in alphabetical order. So head down to N and open the navigator. The navigator gives you a lot of freedom about sizing, right? So it doesn't change the physical size, just zooming in, like getting close with the camera, or backing up. So I'd like you to get it nice and large so you're comfortable, but not so large that you don't know where the edges are. You know, that's going to be very confusing. Stay oriented by seeing the edges. Any of you taking animation with me in the fall, you know, frankly, I haven't gotten my contract yet, so I hope I'm teaching it in the fall. Schools don't know what's going on right now, so everybody's delayed. But if you're in my animation class, I'll be talking about this all the time. I never let people work without seeing the edges. That means you're guessing at sizes. All right, so if you can see what you're doing, I want to move forward a little bit. You know, I think I want to do a little cleanup before we do some levels, work out the tones of this room. And I want to show you what I mean by cleanup. I like the scuffy room. There are times when I've had to digitally make a room messier. I did a haunted house project at another school. So we take a room like this and make it haunted. So we'd bring in furniture and tear it up, and we would just go to town in this space. But here, there's some things I want to point out that I might not like. So I want to remind you how to use the clone tool. So first, join me on this. If you look on your toolbar, there are these tools that look like stamps. One of them is called the clone stamp. And if I press on it, you could see there's actually two related tools. I never use the pattern stamp, to tell you the truth, but I'm going to use the clone stamp. The letter S will get you there quickest, but you still have to press to make sure you're getting the right one, the clone. We used it last week. I want to review it, and I am going to zoom in a little bit this time. I'm going to use Command+. By the way, I want to mention something else about zooming. With the navigator, this red box will let you move things around once you've zoomed, which is nice. But so will holding down the space bar. That long bar on your computer? If you hold it down, you could just move the page with this hand that shows up. So I'll often do that. I'm looking at this box back here. On the wall, I love the graffiti. It's awesome. I'm not going to touch that. But this box, I want to get rid of. So if you wanted to get rid of it, you want to get that clone stamp. Now, I want to remind you something about the clone stamp. First, how big should it be? If it's too super small, right, I'm going to get streaks when I try to take this out. If it's too large, I may not have any control. Now, you might ask, Ira, how are you doing that? Could you look next to the letter P on your keyboard to find the brackets? The left bracket by itself means small brush every time you tap it, right next to the letter P. The right bracket is bigger brush. Is that working for you guys?
Yes.
So I use this constantly with most of these tools. So I'm going to get to about this big. Now, the other thing you want to know when using this tool is it a soft brush or a hard brush? So a hard brush, like a magic marker, leaves streaks. A soft brush typically won't. Now, the only way to do that is to come up here. So I'm back in the upper left. Remember this item we keep using because it works for so many tools. I'm going to click on it and check out the hardness. My hardness is at 0 right now. I think that's best for what we're about to do. So I'm going to leave it at 0, hit return or enter to accept any change. All right, you chose your tool, you chose your item that you want to work on, and now it's all about two things. First, Macs, you're going to use Option. Windows, you're going to use Alt. Now, the first step is you hold down that key, and you choose an area you might want to borrow from. Now, this has got sunlight here. I don't want to borrow from this, because look what would happen if I did. You don't want to do this, right? That's not going to look real. So I got to choose a spot that's better. Does this look good? I think it might. This is small. I'm a little afraid I'm going to bump into the door, but I could try it. Now I'm going to borrow this. So I'm going to Option click, hold on Option. You click once with the Option key down. Keep it down, click. Then let go of the Option key. Now when I start to paint, you're going to see two cursors. Can you see them? That faint little plus sign? That's showing me the pixels I'm borrowing. So I just borrowed this vertical line that I didn't like. This faint little line. So I'm going to borrow something else. I'll hold down Option and say, you know what, I think I need a little of that. Let go of Option. Aha, it's gone. And no one's ever going to know. If you get picky, just be careful. You could say, oh, I want a little splotch over here. That looks better. But if you keep going over it, it's going to look confused after a while. It'll get too blurry and it won't feel like the rest of the wall. I just got to know, just by word of mouth. How's that tool treating you?
Good.
Good? Excellent. So I want to just say a little bit about the power of that. When you get really good at that, the uses of it are almost endless. Take out pimples, take out scars, take out garbage. There was one cloud in this otherwise blue sky. Take out the cloud. There are other tools now that are also awesome. This program keeps upgrading that you might like even more. We won't have time for them. But there's a number of healing tools and other tools that let you paint with pixels. That's what you just did. Now, what I'd like you to do to practice a little bit is I want you to choose something else to remove. And here's a couple choices. You could remove this face if you want. You could remove some of the garbage on the floor. Now, I'm going to take out some of the garbage on the floor, but I want to show you something first. So let me just move this over. Now, this is very much painter's logic. I can't start painting now because it's going to be borrowing pixels from the wall. I have to option click and figure out where to borrow from. Would these pixels here look good here? They might, but they're closer to the window. They're a little light. These here are further. These look kind of perfect. I'm going to see if I could borrow these. So I'm going to hold down option, click once, then let go of option. And then when I start to paint over this stuff on the floor, I'm going to watch both the cursors. And if the other cursor doesn't come near anything I don't like, I'm going to just keep going. Nice. The problem starts is if you click in the wrong place. Like if I option click here, I might start getting these little red dots. There they are. So it's all about where you're going to borrow from. And it's okay to keep changing your mind. Hold down option and click again. So, you know, you should pick yourself a battle right now just for a minute or two and see if you could make that floor look different than it is now, but in a convincing way. Some people prefer to just click to copy their pixels. Others like to brush around. And I take out this little brick. Kind of like it really, but I'm going to take it out just for the fun of it. All right. So I don't know. Do I want these? It's crazy, isn't it? It's really. All right. Enough of the, we may need this tool again, we'll see, right? It's very, very powerful. This is one notch over what you're gonna do in a typical day-to-day kind of job. I mean, if you're like at a product, a catalog company, you know, and the photographer shot all the products going in the catalog, they're hopefully good photographers, you know, there won't be a lot of this to do. You know, it's like part of their job. So there's really like two teams, the photography production people and then the Photoshop people, which are more like post-production. And then you call it post. You know, this is what we got. You know, I had a friend who he learned special effects for TV and movies. And, you know, it's exciting. So he liked making lasers come out of people's hands and fun stuff. But when I asked him about what kind of work he gets, he goes, oh, it's usually fixing people's errors. He goes, I use special effects to hide the fact that no one noticed there was a wire behind the actor's head during the best performance, you know, that looked ugly. So he's just constantly just fixing errors. All right, in any case, I want to make this room look even better. So please join me on this. I'm going to zoom back a little bit. So I'm using my navigator again. I want to see the whole thing. The room's clean enough, just the right amount of mess. I think I want to change the lighting. So I want to say something to you guys again about levels. You know, you look at this photo, and if I said to you, do you like the levels? That means, do you like the tones? You might say, yeah, they're fine. Yeah, they're fine, but is fine good enough? Could everybody join me by doing Command L or Control L for levels? And if you don't like shortcuts, Image Menu, Adjustments has a lot of popular features, including levels. Image Menu, Adjustments. All this stuff is cool, by the way. But I'm going to use this one now. Command L, Control L, or the menu. I want to remind you that you usually do the gray slider last, the midtones last, because if I work on either side, the midtone goes with it. But if I do it last, it'll stay by itself. So first we want to explore either the lights or darks. Either one. I would like to see more darks in this image, so I'm going to start here. I'm going to take the dark slider. Sliding right makes the tonal range darker. So I'm going to take the dark slider and move right to make it even darker. Now what's going on here is my highlights stayed the same. All the lights have not changed at all. The midtones changed a little because this is being forced over. Okay, I want to see what it would look like with more light. So I'm going to use the light one. Left is lighter, right is darker. So I'm going to take the light one and go left to make it even lighter. Now I've got an image with more punch. I could stop now, or I could go for mood. Now listen guys, I want to talk to you about the elephant in the room. Do you know that expression? The elephant in the room? Some of you know it, right? It means
Wait, is that why you did the elephant?
Can you believe that's not why?
Oh,
It's so typical of me to choose it for my odd sense of humor. But no, I chose it just because I liked elephants. And then later on, I was like, man, there's so many elephants in the room these days.
Oh,
You know, that it's appropriate. All right. So before we do it, though, before we get the elephant, you might want to choose the lighting that you want. Like, for example, maybe you do want to get dramatic. These are dramatic days. So I would give it more dark, maybe a little less light. And then I might hit the midtones and say, maybe even the midtones need to be darker, right? That's a moody room. You know, it depends what's going to, look, if this is going to be a drug addiction scene, I'm going to light it like this. So let's be clear about like how you want to do it. If you want it to be more fun, you know, soap operas are typically very light. You know, for example, comedies are almost always light. All right, in any case, you're going to choose the mood you want right now. So this is really up to you. I like a kind of nice wide tonal range. Lots of darks and lights. All right, when you like what you got, click OK. I do want to give us a chance, though, to change our minds wisely. So we had talked about the history palette before. I want to remind people who are used to computers that this version of Photoshop lets you use Command Z to go backwards in time. I think maybe up to 20 steps. Command Z, Command Z, Command Z, Command Z. If you do it that way and you go too far, you're going to need Command Shift Z, which means move back forward in time. But if you're not used to that kind of thinking, the history palette is particularly excellent. So let's go to the window menu and get it. Window menu, history. The history palette. You can tell I've done a lot of stamping. So I can go back. This is before levels. This is it is with levels. I really like my new one better. This one here looked fine to me before, but it really has no personality at all, right? So I'm going to stick with this one. I could keep going back. You know, there's the stuff that I stamped out earlier, but I want to work in the present. I'm coming all the way to the bottom. So if you don't like what you did, you could back up a step or two. Why not? All right. I want to start talking to you about the elephant, indeed. And I want to do this differently, so please don't move ahead without me. One, may want some fun in here, change the color of the elephant, change the color of the room, but I think I'd rather wait. I want to talk to you about, let's say you had this idea about the elephant in the room. You know, maybe on the right side, you're going to do something about our concerns with police brutality and the protests, and maybe on the left side, you're going to do something about COVID, right? Because the new elephant in the room is, how do you juggle two simultaneous disasters? You know, I'm so worried about all these big-hearted people getting sick. I'm thinking about it all day lately. Everyone's ignoring the news as it increased again. You know, we started to flatten and now it's going right back up like I knew that it would, because human nature gets cocky. So maybe I'd need elements. So you'd have to go find those elements. What are you looking for? You know what I mean? And find those photos and bring them into the room. We need an elephant, and I want to go about this in a certain way, so I'm going to ask you to bear with me for a minute, right? So try to be patient. I want to show you something before we do this together. The first issues when it comes with finding photos is legality, and you might even say morality, if you're okay with that word. Now, legality, you know what I'm talking about. Someone owns a photo, you use it anyway, right? Maybe your website gets a lot of traffic, you make a lot of money, then they find out you use their photo. That is a federal crime. That's not a small crime, it's a federal crime. They're gonna sue you into the ground, right? They had a copyright, you ignored it, bad. You don't want someone stealing your photos, right, either. So we gotta figure out how to make it both legal and moral. Now, I want to say something because I know someone mentioned, Jonathan, I think mentioned Creative Commons. I have a bunch to say about it. I'd like to do this to make it a little bit more fun, though. Could everybody join me by opening a new tab in the browser? Now, I'm hoping you're in Chrome, right? Because that's the one I know my way around the best. But just something similar could work in other browsers, but you'd have to fend for yourself. I'd like for you to search this exact phrase, elephant, side view. Then, if you're in Chrome, I want you to click images up here. So I just want to repeat that Chrome is generous. You could search up here, you could search here. There's lots of ways to search. You wrote elephant side view. Then I want you to click images, so it's just images, no articles. Now listen, folks, before we pick the right elephant that's legal, that's the right quality and the right size, I want to point out a couple quick things to you. This is a horizontal photo. I wanted a side view elephant because it'll look great in this space. It was an artistic choice. I don't want to look through hundreds of elephants, just the side views. Now, the other thing I want to point out is, remember how we made the image 1280 wide earlier today? That means if the elephant here is only 600 pixels long, it's going to look kind of small, about half the room. So I definitely want an elephant that's at least 800-900 pixels wide so it could fill up most of this 1250 space. So we need a few things: the right elephant, side view, something big enough, or too big is fine, because we can make it smaller, but nothing small is going to work. And it's got to be legal. So let me get back here. All right, let's start at the top. I don't know how many of you have ever used the Tools button. Please join me and click Tools. When you click Tools, size shows up and usage rights, and we need them both. So first you searched, smart, you went to images, and then you click Tools. I'd like you to go to size, and I need to complain for a minute. Large, medium, icon, what does that even mean? It should tell you how large is large. What does that mean? Over 1,000 pixels? But it doesn't tell you. Now that really bothers me because a year ago it did. And we all depended on that. It would actually say, give me only images over. And you could type in a number over this size. I would like something over 1,000 pixels. I want you to go to icon to see what happens. Now you go to icon, and it doesn't really mean just drawings, but it'll give you photos, but you know, not mostly. I do want you to click on just the first one for a minute. Click it once. You know, it would be nice if the sizes showed here. Now, if you use this feature, you're thinking, don't they usually? Yes, they did a few months ago. I don't know why Google Images is getting worse in this one way. It used to tell you the size right on the image. So I could say, oh, this is only 200 pixels, it's too small. Now you have to click it. Look what you have to do. You click it, then you come to the right, and it finally tells you the size. Width comes first. That's way too small. So I'm going to click the next one. Also too small. The next one, too small. Now I don't want to waste your time. Icons are too small. So let's just come back here to where size was and change it to medium. I'd like you to click the first one. It brings up the preview on the right. And this one's 661 wide. Is that big enough? Not really, because I want to tell you something. The elephant's not 661 wide. The photo is. But you can see this has got to be 100 pixels. This is only like a 560 pixel elephant. It'd be really small. Very disappointing. Click the next one. Closer. But I think it's safe to say that we need large. I'd like you to come back to the size menu and choose large. Now guys, listen, I need to say something to you in all fairness. I'm angry that Google keeps changing the way this feature behaves. And professionals are very dependent on this feature. And now it's slowed me down a lot, and it makes it much harder for me to find what I want. So I'm showing you the current best methods. They're restless, and they usually improve things. So I expect they'll eventually realize they made some bad decisions. But for us, large is often best because Photoshop is good at making things small. but not good at making them large. So if you start large, you got the most freedom. All right. Now I want you to notice this first elephant, and I want to ask you, are you guys seeing the same one as this guy?
Mm-hmm.
Now,
Yes.
so this one that says side view Kruger, so I don't know who Kruger is, photographer, magazine, photo house, but this is the one we're going to use. But I want to do one more step before we take it. We still haven't dealt with legality. So could you go to where it says usage rights? Now, folks, I'd like you to take this seriously, and I'm going to be really very direct and honest about the law. When you're a student and you take a photo that isn't yours and you put it on a website, and that website is not making money. So let's say you put a website up that's just about you. It's a lifestyle website. There's no ads on it. You're not making money in any way. If someone sees their photo on your website and you took it illegally, they might say, you know what, I don't even care. This person doesn't get a lot of visits. They're not making any money. I'm going to ignore them. So you don't have to worry too much, most of you at this stage. But I want to talk to you about being professional. So if you look at this one, it says you're allowed to use it if you modify it, but it doesn't say how much you need to modify. You just go down to, labeled for use is my favorite, but let's take a quick look at the next one. Labeled for non-commercial reuse with modification. So you have to change it, but it also can't be on a website that sells anything, services or imagery. So this is a little complex for us. Labeled for non-commercial, that's also a little complex. I like this one because it's got no rules. It's just like, yeah, you can use it. Please click labeled for reuse. Now, luckily, the photo I want is labeled for reuse. Now, I need to say something to you just to be fair. Does this guarantee that you're okay? Does this guarantee that no one's going to get your phone number and call you up and say, I'm suing you? No. But what it does give you is the best argument. If someone contacts you and says, look, you swiped my image, you get to say, oh man, I'm sorry. I really tried, right? This said labeled for use on Google Images, I promise. But I could see that they were wrong. This is the right way to handle it. When you're wrong, you admit you're wrong. And even if it's not your fault, there's nothing wrong with it. That's what a big person does. Listen, this has happened to friends of mine. They were reckless. They would take images from everywhere, this design outfit in Brooklyn. And they got busted because the photographer happened to live like a mile from their agency. And someone told on them. And, you know, they were clever businesswomen, these two, so they made a big mistake. But what they did was they told him they're going to buy photos from him. And would he be interested in exchanging a website? And they designed a website for him. And it created a business relationship. The story ended well. But if they hadn't been handled it right, it would have been a huge fine, a huge, huge fine. So use labeled for reuse, but don't think that means it's guaranteed to be true. They don't hire lawyers to check this out. Does anybody have any questions about labeled for reuse?
I do.
Yes, John.
Wouldn't searching for images through the Creative Commons website be a little more, you know?
So you've used a Creative Commons website just to focus on photos?
Yes.
I've not done that, so I'm going to take a notice of it. Is it just creativecommons.com?
It might be. I can't recall the website off the top of my head. I have to go through some old class notes. But
so I wanted to say a couple things about that. There are other sites, definitely, other than Google Images. There are many of them, and I'm going to mention a few to you today that have a free and legal images. Any of them are cool. Any of them are cool. Creative Commons is a legal invention that your generation and mine came up with, where artists like yourselves are allowed to share art with other artists on your own terms. In the past, it was either yes or no. You can have it or you can't. And that was way too limited. I don't mind people using my images. I just want them to ask, you know, and I want to know what they're doing with them. You know, so Creative Commons created a whole world of legal issues that create more flexibility. So I don't know about websites devoted to Creative Commons photos, but it sounds pretty cool.
I found it. I just put it in the chat.
Great, in the chat. Great, I may take a look at that. So for now, though, I'm going to stick here, a very well-known place, and I want to mention to the next step. If you look underneath the photos, you'll see that they come from different sources. And a number of them are coming from Wiki. And when I say Wiki, I mean Wiki products, not just Wikipedia. This is Wikimedia, owned by the same people, more Wikimedia. But this one here is from Pexels. And if you look on, there's all kinds of companies you may not have heard from. Now here, the guys, this is a little boring, but I just got to be fair about it. So they each download differently, right? So that's why I can't give you one set of steps. Now we're going to use Wiki, but I want to show you something quickly. You notice on the handout, I focused on 3 sources, well, 2 really, Pixabay and Wikimedia. And this is what I want to say. Pexels, for example, is huge. But if I remember, they may make you make an account. Some of them will ask for a credit card, even if they're giving you a free image, because the idea is they bring you in and then you start wanting stuff that you have to pay for. So I'm only interested when I'm talking to students in the ones that are 100% free. So Pixabay is 100% free and Wikipedia is 100% free. So that's fantastic. There are others, but I don't have a huge list, a master list. So we're intentionally
sorry,
using
teacher.
Wiki. Yes.
For example, I use another one that is very famous, is Flerk. Maybe you heard of it.
How do you spell that?
Give me a second. Is FLICKR. It's like a Google to
Flickr.
you have the option to like
Right,
to download the
Flickr.
photo. It's
Right. I've had a lot of trouble using Flickr for downloaded images. Not everyone wants you to do that. It's
Oh,
not.
yeah?
Yeah, I personally have had a very hard time doing this in a responsible way. You may know more about Flickr though, so I don't want to turn anybody off to it.
Okay, got it.
Here's the argument that I want to make, and I want to get through it, is each site's going to have a different issue. When you find one you really like, quality, legality, write it down. Right? So right now we're using Wiki, and I want to show what I like about Wiki. All right. So I want you to click this image that we've agreed on, and but I want to mention something artistic about it also, folks. So this is legal, great. It's large, great. But here's the other thing I want to say. It's got the whole elephant. You know, if I chose this elephant, I can't see his legs. So what am I going to do when I put him in the room? Right? If I choose one of these, what am I going to do? And the only way to use him would be to have him all the way to the right of the room. Right? So I'm only interested in ones where I could see the whole animal. So let's click this guy. And on the right, if you bring your mouse over, you could see that this is a very large image. Remember, you chose large, right? So it's over 2,000 pixels wide. That elephant by himself is over 1,000 pixels wide. It's perfect. And it's Wiki. So please click the thumbnail now, not the little thumbnail, the bigger one. So you got it on the right. The size is good. It's Wiki, so you know it's trustworthy. Click it once. Now, this is not going to happen with every single image. This is how Wiki behaves, right? So Pexels or Pixabay and Getty Images, there's many, many places. They're all going to act differently. Flickr, right? But I want to show you something really cool about Wiki products. If you look underneath the elephant, they're actually offering you multiple sizes. 800 by 600, remember the first number is width, right? 320 by 240, 640. Look at this one. This is 1024. This is pretty appealing. So I want to say something to you. If you got a huge computer, you got a fast internet connection, you got all the storage in the world, nothing's to stop you from getting the biggest one every time. I'm a little bit more conservative. So this is why I talk a lot about size. How big is our room? Anyone remember the width? 1280, right? So you want an elephant close to 1280. I'm going to choose this one, 1280. Could you click that? Now, I know it's a lot of steps, but it feels like more because I'm being so detailed. Once you finally got to the image, you could bank that this is the size that you were told. We're ready to download it. Now, some websites will have a download button. This one's going to work like this. Control click it or right click it. Depending on your computer, it'll say something like save image as, something like that. Even save link as. I like save image as. If it's there, that's the one you want. Now it's going to open up a save window. And there's a few things you want to do. One, you want to give it a better name. So I'm going to ask you to change the name to something that's, you know, suits you better. So I'm just going to call it elephant or elephant wide, whatever works for you. Next, find your folder before you click the save button. I don't want to save it into downloads. So I'm going to go and find my folder. So I'm going to the desktop from the sidebar. I'm opening today's folder, and I'm going to save it right in here. Now, I'm going to do it again just one more time, much faster, because I might have lost anyone by just being slow. All right. I chose large from here and labeled for use. I got over here. I'm going to review this tomorrow, right? But then I found an image. I clicked it. I checked its size. Now I have to do it this way. I have to roll over it on this larger one. I like the size. I clicked it. Because it's wiki, I got a bunch of choices. This is probably the smallest one, the 800 by 600. I'm going to go ahead and choose this one again, 1280. Once I'm there, I control click or right click and save my image. All right, I'm calling it elephant. All right, I know I did this twice just to be a little clearer. I don't want to save it into the wrong folder, so I'm finding my folder. Okay. All right, let's put the browser away, right, and go back to Photoshop. I want you to open that image. Now, the room will stay here. We're going to do File Menu Open, unless you have another method. Anyone with Photoshop experience, please do not use Place. I want you to use File Menu Open or some similar feature. It should take you right to your folder and get that new photo. Now, I want to say a couple quick things, but I want to check up on everybody. Everybody has their elephant? You got it open in Photoshop? So I want to say a few things. There's more than one way we could do this, but eventually we got to knock out everything that isn't the elephant. I don't want the grass or the sky or the ground, right? Because it's going to go in the room. So I do have a couple of choices. Sometimes I'll bring in a big thing and drop it on the room, on the other photo, and then clean it up. Sometimes I'll start cleaning it up early. Today, I want to start cleaning it up right in the elephant image before we take it in to the room, right? So I want to show you something. Can everybody look on the left? Now, there are these tools called Lasso Tools. Let me get this out of the way. And they all work with L. So if you're having a hard time finding them, tap L. Now, when you press it, there's 3 lassos there, and they're all amazing. You know, I use all 3. Now, I don't know if you remember, but you used the middle one when we put the duck on the stage. This one here makes straight lines, and we painted the back of the stage. I hope you guys remember that, the stage in the park. So this one was the best to make straight lined selections, but this elephant is anything but straight. This is freehand, and it's the hardest one to use. I want to introduce you, this actually I love it, but I want to introduce you to the Magnetic Lasso. Could everybody choose? It's got a little magnet on it. The Magnetic Lasso notices contrast between colors and assumes it's an edge, and it magnetically sticks. Now, if you go to the edge of your elephant and start to drag, you'll see that line following the edge of the elephant. Now, if you drag recklessly, you'll blow it, but just ignore it and then come back out. Now, if you go slow, you get a clean selection. Again, if you blow it and you go outside, don't worry too much. Just get your way back. The tusks are really hard, so I'm going to take my time about the tusks. Oops, I already blew it. That's okay. Now, you could also click yourself if you're in an area that seems difficult. Just move a little forward and click. So like his snout looks difficult. So I may do some clicking myself. Now, you want to be kind of careful. Now, I want to tell you something, though. I'm sort of hoping that you do make some mistakes. So I'm making them because I want to prove something to you. I'm going to show you a very advanced feature to get the best selections. This is just good for a head start. So I don't want yours to be too perfect. So if you wouldn't mind, make mistakes. Do I want both those ears? I think I do. So this may take a little while, right? If you've got your navigator out. Oops, give me a second there. I'm going to Command Z and see if that helps me out. Oh, I just totally blew it, which if some of you did that, just click Escape. By the way, if you've never used the Escape key, it's in the top left corner of your keyboard. So you could start over. Now I'm going to go really fast, and I want to tell you why I'm doing that. Not only do I want to keep you sane and not put you to sleep, but I want to show you how I'd fix it myself. So I'm going really fast right now. The tool acts weird if you go reach for something else, so I want to try to avoid that. I'm going to get my whole job done. You want to get all the way around that elephant. And again, don't worry if it isn't perfect, because we're going to perfect it in a different way. The tail is going to be really difficult. Now, I don't mind if you work while I talk to you, right? Now, mine is a poor selection, and I'm going to fix it, but I want to show you that it's poor. So don't join me on this, but I just want to prove something to you. If I Command C now, and I go to the room, this is what the elephant would look like when I paste them, right? So there's pieces of missing trunk. There's some weird stuff underneath here, pieces of missing head. The more I look at it, I see there's little bits of the ground from, you know, the original photo. There's all kinds of mistakes. So I don't want to do that. I want to perfect it. So I'm going to wait a moment here, and I want to ask everybody to be very careful. Once you've finished selecting the elephant, even if you don't like the selection, stop. Because I'm going to show you the coolest feature yet, right? The feature I want to show you is called Quick Mask. And Quick Mask is a way to refine selections. And in this method, you paint where you don't want selected, and you paint a different color where you do want things selected. The best method is to make some kind of selection first, like you just did, and then perfect it. Are you guys ready to see the next step? Now, if you're having a very, very hard time with the magnetic lasso, I want to show you something quickly, and then I'm going to move to the next step. I'm going to deselect for a minute. Just want to make a point. This, let me get out of there with the escape key, deselecting. This tool here, this is the oldest lasso tool. This one here is where people will just want to do everything by hand. So some people who are used to it will use this tool, and I'm doing a terrible job just to make a point. So if you got lost, you go ahead and do it like I'm doing. Just do a terrible selection. If you got lost, right? If you got something better, keep it. Because I'm going to show you what happens with the next step. So no matter how good or bad your selection is, please let me have your attention now. If you look on the toolbar, almost at the bottom of the toolbar is this odd symbol. Now it looks like a rectangle with a circle in it, and that means mask. There's several kinds of mask in this program. This one's called Quick Mask. Now when you click it, what should happen is you see red on everything outside of your selection, right? And the inside is just mostly elephant. Now here's the other odd thing. If you look at the colors on your toolbar, you should be seeing black and white. Now, I'm talking about 3 colors, so I want you to pay close attention. The mask is red. The colors on the toolbar are black and white. Why? Could you watch this? All right, and then I'm going to explain it. I'm getting a paintbrush, and I'm going to go over this in detail, right? But I want you to see something. Let me just check something quickly. All right, watch this. I've got black and white. The X key switches them. So every time I tap X, it switches them. Look what black's going to do. Now I want to show you something in a minute. Just keep your eye on that leg. Watch when I click the mask button again. it cleaned up the selection. Now, I'm not done. You're not ready to join me just yet. Black then deselects. It's outside the selection. But you see this area of his leg, I need the opposite. And this is what that looks like, right? You could tell that that's wrong. So white adds to the selection. So I'm going to use my X key to bring white to the front. I'm in the lower left here. And I'm going to leave my finger over the X key. Because with the X key ready to go, I could switch back and forth between black and white. Now I know you're ready to join me. So I'm going to go over how to get started, but I want to just point out a couple of things, right? You're going to need a brush and quick access to black and white. So if yours looks something like this now, you're seeing the selection, click the mask button. Then get a brush. That's the next step. My brush is acting a little weird today, so I'm a little mad at it. The edge wasn't painting, so it wasn't as neat as I like. I want to see what's causing it. But once you choose the brush tool, please come to the top. We keep changing brushes. We did it with the burn tool and the dodge tool. Click that and check out your size. You might want something big, you might want something small. Check out the hardness. I definitely want a hard brush this time because I want a clean edge around the elephant. I don't want a fuzzy edge around the elephant. It's not a cloud, it's an elephant. So I'm going out to 100% hardness. If you want to change the shape of the brush, you can this much. That's something that you can do. You know something, I don't know what this slider is. I shouldn't be touching it in front of you. Huh, I'm gonna leave it. All right, so anyway, you're gonna do it like, a little bit of trial and error. So a hard brush, a size that you think is good for you. If you want to change the size or angle, this is how you do it. And I want to show you what I'm going to do now. Once you've chosen the brush, look at your colors. They're black and white. Try your X key to see them switch. The one on top is the one you're going to paint with. So if you have large areas that need to be left out, right, that shouldn't be there like this, right, black adds more mask. You might ask yourself, why isn't it red? Good question, but it's black and it shows up red. So you want to get as close to that edge as you can. And if you blow it, use the X key to switch to white and take the white out. Take the mask out. I don't know why mine is really acting weird. The brush is not behaving the way it usually does, but I'm going to live with it. So black deselects. Try to be as neat as you can. It's going to take a little while. Some people like to work with the navigator out so they could zoom in and zoom out easily. Let me just move my stuff around. Now look, guys, some of you guys like doing this kind of thing, some of you don't. Remember, white will remove mask. Look, if I was getting paid a lot of money for this particular project, I would get incredibly detailed. I'd get down to some very small brushes and I'd be exact.
That's tedious work, though. That's a lot of tedious work you're doing.
It is very, very tedious. So I want to be fair to you about that, right? It really depends what you're doing. So look, like, let's say this is a PowerPoint that I'm doing and the elephant's going to be a very small part of the picture. Then I'm not going to go in there and get the wrinkles around his snout because no one's going to see it. If I'm doing this for a documentary about elephants in Africa and they're going to show this elephant on a movie screen in a theater, you could bet I'm going to get into the details. So really, the amount of detail really depends on the size of the actual image. And listen, I also want to say something to you. Everybody in here is going into different lines of work. You may need to do this, you may not. I worked in news and I was surprised how often I had to do this stuff. We were like, we had terrible photographers was part of the problem. So my job was to make their work look really good. And, I would have to baby stuff. I'm going to give you an example and then I'm going to cheat a little bit, right? I do want people to practice this. Every now and then I could click that button to see how the selection's going. Let me click it again so I can continue. All right. So look, folks, it's your own judgment right now how exact you want to be. All right, and I am going to show you another method before we're done with Photoshop. So black adds mask, or you could say it deselects. So I don't want to take any of the ground with me. But I surely don't want to miss pieces of elephant. So anywhere where it looks like some of the elephant's left out, I'm going back with white. And, you know, working that out. Now, I am going to show you guys something so that everyone gets to make a choice. Could everyone just click on the mask button for a minute just to see how you're doing? You can see I improved the snout quite a lot, but I have errors all over the place because I made such a messy selection. Now you guys, most of you use the Magnetic Lasso first, so you have less work to do. The Magnetic Lasso got you very close, so hopefully it's not too tedious. I did a really fast, bad selection with the freehand lasso, so I'm in trouble. Now, Quick Mask is amazing for people who want to make flat out art in Photoshop, right? You're going to need it. You know, I'm betting even superhero artists and people like that use this all the time when they're colorizing their artwork. So there's all kinds of reasons you want a clean selection. But I want to mention to you a recent tool. So I'd like you to just watch this because I'd rather you work with what you have, right? But this tool's fascinated me. I'm surprised that it even works. It's almost artificial intelligence. So take a look at this, would you? Just watch this one, man. I feel like lying and not showing it to you because I want you to practice these other skills, but I have to be fair. So take a look. I'm going to deselect completely. I'm going to ask you not to do that, right? Because it'll really slow you down. There's a tool here called the Object Selection Tool. And it's the W that gets you there. And it comes with a couple of other very related tools. We used the magic wand before. That's the one that's selected by color. The object selection tool is just crazy. It's very, very new. And it makes a rectangle. And you want to make sure you include the whole object you're after, but as tight as you can get it. Very close to that object, but make sure you include it. And it analyzes the entire edge at once and tries to figure out what is elephant and what is like weeds and dirt from the road or blue sky. And, you know, this will work if the elephant's color is different enough from everything else. I got to give it a minute because the computer's figuring it out. So a green frog on a green leaf, this might not work so well. But if I look at this is incredible. It didn't do too well with the tusks. And it didn't do too well between the legs here or on the tail. So I'm still going to switch to Quick Mask. It just I have a lot of less work to do. So I'm going to quickly catch up with you guys. I got to clean up the tusk. So I'm going to get a brush. I'm in Quick Mask. And it's completely hard. It's small. So I think I need it to be even smaller. I might use my bracket key trick, you know, the two brackets to change sizes a lot. So I got white in front, and I'm just going to fix this quickly. And I might click that now and then to see if it's good enough. So it's a great combination. I've been using this object selection tool since recently. It's like I said, a newish tool. Now Photoshop keeps getting smarter. So again, for a good client, I am going to go around the entire edge of this object. I want to mention something that's out of the range of this class. If this animal had soft fur, I wouldn't want it to look like it was cut out with a sharp brush. So I would have to switch to soft brushes to make them look furry. I think I'm going to cheat and just take out the tail completely. We don't really have time to get into that kind of detail. Also, I might want to add, some people doing this full time might want a drawing tablet. They could do this with a pen instead of with the mouse or the touchpad. I'm using a touchpad right now. I want to mention to you though, selecting is a really big part of this program. So anyone who's going to be a heavy duty Photoshop professional, they got to get very patient. You know, the tedium is definitely part of the job. I just switched to white. And every now and then I might click the quick mask icon just to see what that edge looks like. And I could see I've got some big errors down here. I'm listening, by the way, if anyone has a question to shout out or any comments. So look, again, you're always going to pick based on your own goal, how intense you're going to get, because time is time, you know? So sometimes you have time for detail or you're being rewarded.
Professor,
Yes.
I'm Faik.
Hi,
I just
Faik.
have one question.
Yes.
So if we want, so can we take the shadow too for this elephant?
Can you say that again?
Can we take the shadow too for this elephant or no?
The shadow for the elephant.
Yeah.
You know, that's a very good question. Usually you can't, because unless the ground looks the same, if the ground looks the same in the room as it does outside, then you could probably keep a shadow, but usually you can't, because it's the ground that determines the color of the shadow. You know, if you're on a red rug, a shadow cast there is going to look different than on a yellow rug. It's a fair question. I would have to say in most cases the answer would be no, but not in every case.
Okay.
So, you know, you could take the shadow in, and then if you don't like it, get rid of it when we get into the room. See, that's something that's going to give you a lot of freedom. There's different times you can do this. Like if I took a lot of elephant just with some extra stuff in, then I could fix it up once I get into the room. I'm going around the edge of this quickly just to see if it's acceptable. And I think it's acceptable. I can see little details that may need to be fixed depending on the kind of project. All right, when you're ready, you click that mask button again. And I'm going to back up a little. I could use my navigator. I just want to, you know, get a good look. I don't want to guess. I want to warn you though, like clicking in the wrong place could lose the whole selection. So you really want to be careful. If you think you've got something that's good enough for today, just to get started, right? Make sure that you've released that button so you could see the selection and Command C. I see some errors that I have, but I think I could fix them later. So I'm going to Command C now. And I'm going to go to the room. You're ready to paste. Now you can see I've got some spots that look excellent. Look at his back, really perfect. And even the snout's pretty good. I got some serious problems on this foot. So how would you continue here? Right? So I want to mention a couple of things that one could do to perfect it once you're here, you know, in the room. You know, if you've got extra stuff, like I have around this front leg, well, you could just use the eraser. This is the eraser. Looks to me like a USB drive. It also uses brushes, so you're allowed to make changes if you like. And I could just erase. And I'm so zoomed in now, if I make a small error, no one's going to zoom in this much. It's not cheating. So I can see the whole edge is a little unsatisfying. I'm wondering if my computer's giving me a hard time because my brush, you could tell that the edge of my brush is not really erasing properly, and I had a similar problem before today. So I'm going to have to look into it. But again, depending on how exact you are, you could come in and start cleaning it up with the eraser. The only thing you can't really do is if you accidentally left out a chunk of elephant. You know, if you brought it in and you hadn't noticed that it looked like that, that's too late. You know, that'd be really hard to fix. So you might just have to deal with it. Okay. I want to say something quickly. If you're happy with what you've got, thumbs up. If you're not happy with what you've got, just take a deep breath and like listen. Any of you who ride a bicycle know you fell down many times before you learned how to not fall down. You know, so you know, we all pay our dues. Let's work with the elephant you have, right? All right, so the next thing that we've discovered, and I'm going to need to pick it up a little bit, is that this elephant here has a different sense of light. And there's a few reasons. Of course, he was outside. He looked like he was in a semi-desert area. There was very specific light in the desert. But the good news is the light's coming from reasonable places. He's got some light on the back coming, which now looks like it's from these windows. He's got light on the front, which looks like it's coming from these windows. So it's really not bad. But I think levels and some dodge and burn might be called for. Let's do levels first. So you have to be on the elephant layer, not the lower layer, the upper layer with the elephant, and do Command L. So the room has some deep darks. The elephant would also have to have them. So I'm going to raise up my darks. That already looks better. The room has some extreme lights, but mostly near the window. So I'm not really sure that I need more lights, but I'm going to try it. I think that's a little too much, so I'm going to back up. The midtones and the darks are going to do most of the work. So I raised up my darks. Remember, dragging to the right darkens. I want to see what happens with a slightly darker set of midtones. Now that elephant looks like he's in this room. I'm pretty happy with that. I'm going to okay it. I want you to remember, you always have your history palette if you need it. Just a quick couple words, because it's 11:30 already. Time flew today. What if you needed to do specific changes? You know, like I might want the lowest part of the feet to be a little darker, even though some of them look very believable on that floor. You know, I'm surprised this one feels like it's really pressing on the floor. This one here looks like he's raising it up a little bit, so I don't know how I feel about it. But if I did want to darken any of it, I would switch now to the burn tool. I'm hoping you remember the burn tool, use it a couple times over here on the toolbar. Looks like O would get us to this set of tools. The burn tool is the one that darkens. This elephant looks like he's a mid-tone animal, not too dark like a panther, you know, not too light like a dove. So I'm going to stick with mid-tones. And I'm going to get myself a brush. And if I think anything needs more darkening, I'm going to do it now. I'm being very subtle about it, I'll admit. And anything I think could be darkened more, I can do it. Here's a huge brush darkening most of this thing's belly. So levels is great, but if you need to get specific, it's going to be about burning. If you feel like you need to dodge, right, that's lightning. I want to show you what that would look like. The burn tool comes with dodge. Burn means darken, dodge means lighten. So I'm going to the dodge tool. The rules are the same though. Am I working on something that's already midtones? Yes, I am. All right. I might want a little light over here because it's pretty close to the window. Ooh, that was good. Am I allowed to say that? I don't mean to brag, I just got excited. Here's the back. There might be a little bit of light along the edge there. I'm going to Command Z a bit. Not as confident as that one. I'm happy with it. I think I'm going to let it ride. Okay. I want to say a little bit more, though, about making him to feel like he's in the room. It is largely about light, but, you know, Faik asked about the shadow. And yeah, you know something, I got to tell you, Faik, I always get nervous around the shadows. They're just difficult. They really, really are. But I am going to try to do it with the burn tool. Now, I want to say something to everybody. If you're going to do shadows, make sure you have the elephant where you want it and the size you want it. So if you want to change the size or location, you should do it before you put a shadow on the floor. So I'm going to use Command T, which will allow me to make it smaller safely because I brought in a big elephant. But if I want it to be bigger, that's a cheat. So if you're going to make it bigger, you don't make it a lot bigger. It's going to get blurry, right? So I'm not going to do that. I'm going to make mine a little smaller. I'm going to press in there and move them before I make my shadows. That was Command T, by the way, that got me this box. If you like your changes, you hit return or enter. If you hate them, you click escape, which is typically in the top left of your keyboard. I like mine, so I'm gonna hit return. So a lot of this is review. Quick mask was new, but when I'm ready to work on the floor, I have to go to the background layer because that's where the floor lives. So I'm on the background layer. I'm gonna get the burn tool and see how I want to treat this, and I'm really not sure. One of the things is I think I want a different, you know, a round brush. And this is very big. I do want a big brush because I'd like to do it in one mark if I could, so it won't get streaky. It definitely needs to be soft because there's no reason there'd be a sharp edge shadow in this room, you know. So I maybe not 0, you know, but I'm gonna try it at 0. So I don't know. I got a 120 pixel brush right now if you're curious. It's for the burn tool. So I'm gonna just sort of go right across underneath this elephant so that there's less light underneath the elephant. But I'm not really focusing on the shape of the shadow because I don't think I need to. You know, it's not like it's outside where I might have a harder shadow. If I wanted to get more detailed at that point, I could. Maybe add some shadow right next to the feet, I don't know. You know why I'm not getting a lot of results? The ground is too dark. It doesn't think it's a midtone. It's so dark now, it's only gonna let me work if I switch to shadows. This means what am I working on? So now it'll work, there you go. So now I'm getting some darkness there. And I'm just adding a couple little dark highlights near the feet. That foot's lifted, so I'm treating it a little different. And I'm gonna back up a bit. I'm pretty happy with it. So it would be a combination of all these things to get that elephant to really be specific. You know, really have the right light, be in exactly the right position. I don't want to move him now because I left these spots on the floor, right? Even though he's flying, which is kind of fun. All right, if you'd like to do some quick color changes for the fun of it, join me, right? I'm gonna make myself a bluish room with a purple elephant. At least that's what I'm imagining. So if you want to recolor the room, go back down to the room layer and Command U. Guys, I want to throw something in. If you wanted to color part of the room, right, you'd go to the room layer and select the object that you want to change. If you're working on a whole layer, you don't have to make a selection, right? So I'm going to work on the whole room right now. So I just went to the room layer and I'm going to do Command U, which we've done before. Ooh, that's funny. It's also a zoom shortcut. All right, let me click in Photoshop. Command U. Let's see, there we go. Now I want to remind you, if you click colorize, it's going to treat it like a tinted black and white photo. So, you know, that might be nice. If you don't click colorize, it'll change every color in the room in a different way. So you can't really depend on what you see on the slider, but sometimes it's more realistic. So it really kind of depends what feels right. You just got to trust your gut. I wouldn't go thinking too much. Thinking's excellent, but it's not excellent for everything. I like that color a lot. I'm going to keep it. Colorize reduces it to grayscale and then applies the color. A lot of people find that easier. Well, this is a one layer at a time process, so I'm going to change my elephant now. I go to the elephant layer and I do Command U again. And I'm going to just see what I've got. I had this idea of a purplish elephant. Oh, fun. Now look, if you want it to be a lot of color, crank up saturation, which is kind of fun, really. Usually I go on the subtle side and I might back up. That's also nice. I don't know. I'm going with this one. And I'm going to click OK. All right. I need to go over a couple things that you typically do when you're wrapping up a project. By the way, if anyone wants to continue after class, you know, on their own, what I would be tempted to do would be to do this. I would be tempted to open something from the extras that I gave you. And my own favorite to play with, because it's kind of challenging, is the box. Now, I don't want to fuss with this too much right here. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to make a goofy selection. We don't have time to do this together, right? I just pasted it. Command T. I'm putting that box somewhere where it looks like I might be able to use it. It's got its own layer now, so I better keep careful about it. And if I was going to really do that well, I have to figure out how to clean it up. I could use the eraser. There are ways that I could use a quick mask, but I'd figure out how to clean this thing up. You know, actually, I think about it. I bet you the object, this one that we were using, this new tool, object selection, might be just what I need. Let's see if that works. Nope. I probably, you know, the polygon lasso then, which you've used before. Right, so I'm not going to take the time to do this. Again, this would be a challenge for people to do on their own. One of the reasons I included it. But with enough effort, there's a lot I could do. Command T will even let me reshape the box to some degree to change its perspective. Guys, I'm overdoing it a little bit, so I want to back up. I just want to say one thing about this little thing I just did. Command T, you guys have gotten to know a little bit as a way to scale. And yes, that's great. Also to rotate. But it does this extra trick if you know one feature. If I hold down Command, I could move a corner by itself, which allows me to distort the box to create different kinds of perspective. I have to hold down the Command key or the Control key on Windows to do that. And you can see that it's going to be much more believable in the room. All right, I'm going to throw out that layer though, because I want to talk about saving and exporting one more time. All right, I got 3 layers. This top layer's got the box that I don't want, so I have to make sure that layer is selected. At the bottom of the layer palette is a tiny trash can. So you could choose any layer and trash it. I'm going to choose this one and trash it. Delete that layer, yeah. Okay, folks, I want to go over something. Boy, is it frustrating when you work hard and your computer crashes and you're like, oh my God, I lost everything. Hate that. So one thing that we want to do is save more often than I've been doing, right? Now, the other thing is that I don't like is saving over the wrong file. Listen to me. That room was cool, wasn't it? I mean, you could put anything you want in that room. It's very handy for Photoshop exercises. I don't want to lose it. So I'd rather save this file under a different name. It still thinks it's big old room.jpg. So I'm going to use save as. So this is an original, safe, layered PSD file. So please join me. File menu, save as. You use save as to change the name, the folder, or the format, or all 3. I'm going to call this Elephant in the Room, because I can't resist it. .psd. Your format should say Photoshop now. It said JPEG when we got started, but as soon as you added a layer, it switched to Photoshop. That is .psd. So you check the format, should be Photoshop. You give it an intelligent name that you like. You make sure you go into the same folder so you could find it later. Name folder format. I always say, name folder format. Just click save. And anything else it asks, just okay. They're not urgent. I need to squeeze in 2 little things though, right? So if I needed it at exactly this size on a website, I could just go ahead and export a JPEG right now. You know, simply make a JPEG. And I would like to go over that. But then I'd like to reconsider. Maybe we need a different size. And how would we do that and make a JPEG for a website, for example, right? So let's go over a couple quick things and then add one more detail before we leave today. All right. So you save the PSD, which means you could quit, come back later and work on it, which is terrific. But I don't have a JPEG that I could put on the web or in a movie. So let's go to File menu, Export. Now I've been pushing Export As on you guys. If that ever doesn't work, just use Save for Web. But I'm going to go back to Export As today. And again, you could use Save for Web if you've had troubles with it. So I'm going to Export As. When it's a photo, 99% of the time, you want this to say JPEG. Occasionally, it might say PNG. They're bigger files, but they have transparency. We don't have any transparency. So JPEG's smarter. If we wanted to change the size, but keep it a rectangle, we could. But I don't want to do that. I just want you to choose JPEG simply and click Export. So it's going to name it after the PSD, which is perfect. Later on, I'll look in the folder and I'll see Desert and Camel PSD. Nice. And it's going to make, oh, sorry. Oh, I meant to, oh, I'm in the wrong folder. Yikes. How did that happen? There we go. I'm in the right folder. It was from the other day. So, all right. Now I'm in my right folder. Right? I got the right name. So there's the PSD if I want to make more changes. This is the JPEG if I want to put it right away on the web or somewhere else. So let's click Save. Now, guys, listen, I want to ask everyone to take a deep breath because I want to just say something. A lot of what we did was review. Image size was review, and burning was review, and levels was review. The quick mask was brand new, and we'll see if I could find a time to review it because we have a lot to do tomorrow. But I want to show you a tool that you're going to want and that you might need for the midterm, right? And it's my favorite tool for sizing, right? I like it even more than image size, right? The tool I want to show you allows me to be an artist and choose a different shape. So when you read news, not all photos are rectangles. Let's say you needed a square. So let's join me on this. First, make sure your rulers are on, that you see them, and that they're set to pixels. If your rulers are on and set to pixels, this other tool works especially well, and I'm going to prove it to you. All right, on the toolbar is this weird looking tool called the crop tool. And the letter C will get you there, so if you're in a different tool, you could always tap C. But it's part of a group, so if you press on it, you'll see there are other tools that are rather confusing. I'd like you to avoid these tools for a while, but the crop tool you need, crop tool. You'll notice a box showed up. Now, if you look on the top of your screen, you should be seeing the same bar, but yours looks like this. Hang on a second. Let me, yours looks like this. Right? You chose the crop tool, and on the top, this probably says ratio. Am I right? Does it say ratio up here? Now, I don't like ratio. That's why you didn't see it on my computer. I changed it, and my computer remembers that. It's lame. I want to show you the better option. Could you click on this little menu and choose width by height by resolution? This is beautiful. Now, what this lets me do is if my art director tells me how big they want it, I could just type in the width, type in the height, and type in the DPI, the dots per inch. Now, I want you to join me so this makes more sense, right? I'd like you to put 450 px in this box. So first you change this to this, width by height by resolution, W by H by resolution, and you type 450 px. Listen, guys, don't forget the px, because your computer might think you meant inches, especially if your ruler is set wrong. if your ruler's set to inches. And then 450 inches is going to crash the computer unless you have a very strong machine, right? 450 pixels is small. All right. Then go to the next box. I want a square, so it's going to be the same number, 450 px. This box is 72. I want to say something quickly. You might remember that when we opened the room was set already to 72 DPI, 72 resolution. Everything you bring in to the host picture converts to that resolution. So that means the elephant and the box, if it's in there, it's all 72 DPI. So in this case, I could have ignored that. It was already the right number. But if this was a high resolution image made for print, it would be too high for the web. So I would use this all at once to change it. I'm going into details, but tomorrow I'm going to review it, so don't worry. This is the first round. This feature, crop tool, width by height resolution, gives you the most size control. Anything smaller than the original is okay. All right. So I want to show you one last thing. Look what happens if you grab the corner of this cropping box. In pixels, it's telling you how big that box is. Now, it's going to make it the size you just asked for, 450 by 450. But it's saying, look, you don't have to worry. Look how big it is, because big is good. It's going to make it 450 by 450. On the other hand, if you picked an area that was too small, you would know now. This is smaller than my target size, so it's going to get blurry. I'm basically be asking Photoshop to blow it up. So keep your eyes on those numbers. Is it smaller than the size of your document? If it is, is it smaller than the size you asked for? That's not good. Anything bigger than this is fine. So mine right now is over 800 square. I'm good. I want to mention one more thing you can do. If you press inside, you can move the image around to change the composition. All right, guys, you wait for me just 1 minute, all right? I'm going to escape for a second. So it's like, okay, the web designer said they need a square. They want it 450 by 450. I have a big original here. So I went to the crop tool and I chose this, width by height by resolution. This should be on today's handout. I'm going to take a peek in a minute. Then I typed in the numbers, 450px, 450px. If I'm unsure of the resolution, I'll type it in here. 72 is always the resolution for the internet. Then you can change the box if you want. You can move the elephant, the whole image, if you want. When you're ready, you hit return. If that doesn't work, just hit it again. Now you have a square image of a different size. But remember, you're on the PSD, so I got to say something very, very clearly to you. Don't save now, right? Because if you save now, you're going to lose the big room and you might want it, right? So what's a good idea is the PSD is fine the way it is. Just export a new JPEG at this size. So let's do that together, right? You resized it. Let's go back to the file menu. Export. I'm like an export as. Save for web's also good. Export as. It's taking its time. My computer's getting tired. It's got the right sizes, everything I already figured out. It knows it's going to make a JPEG. When I click export, it's going to give me a chance to give it a new name. I don't really have to make any changes. Yes, Marissa. Ask.
I'm confused on the difference between exporting as and just saving as. Because when you save as, you can choose JPEG as well. But
I'll tell you the difference. It's a great question. So let me give you an answer up to the quality of your question. Save as would leave us looking at the JPEG only, right? So I wouldn't have layers to work on, right? I could go to the folder and open up the PSD again. But sometimes you want to stay on the PSD and just like, oh, I need a JPEG of this moment here. So you export it, it goes right to the folder. Your mic's off. Your microphone.
Sorry. So when we close this, it will like file that's open in Photoshop?
Hey,
will
watch.
be
Let's do it
saved?
together. Let's do it, right? So we did export as, which always mean I'm not going to be looking at it. I'm sending it to a folder now, right?
Mhm.
So I'm going to click the export button, right? And I'm in this window here. It says Elephant in the Room JPEG. Now, I already have a big one, so maybe I want to rename this one. And what a lot of people would do is they'd name it something like this, 450 x 450, right? So they know the size without even having to check. Some people just write small. Some people would write cropped. In other words, give it a name so you know it's the small one. I'm in the right folder, right? It's obviously already a JPEG, so I'm just going to click Save. Now here's where it gets interesting.
Mhm.
Look at the folder I'm on. I'm still on the PSD.
Okay.
But if I go to my folder, hang on, where'd you go? There we go. There it is.
Okay, so but save as won't overwrite the PSD, right?
No, that's
It
true.
just has to do with the window you're currently viewing.
Well, if you're in a PSD and you do save as and save it as a JPEG,
Yeah.
it won't overwrite the PSD. It'll be in there looking the way it was the last time you saved it. And then you'll be face to face with a flat JPEG,
Okay.
which, again, isn't a crime. It's just you won't have layers. So you
Right.
won't be able to change anything.
Right. Okay. I get
Like I have layers, so I could do all kinds of tricks even now because I have layers.
Mhm.
Right. So I got to say, I want to just be clear about, those are great questions. You're not going to get crystal clear till you play with it more. But here's the basic idea. Save as is, I want to continue working. I just want it to be a new name or a new format or something new about it, but I want to continue working on it. That's save as. Export as is, I'm cool with what I have, but I want to copy, put away in any format. That's what export as is. I'm putting away while I work. I've been in situations where I needed to make a GIF, a JPEG, this thing called a TIFF, all from the PSD. So I'm exporting like mad, but I'm staying with my PSD while I work.
Okay.
It's good questions, really. Does anybody else have any other questions about this stuff? So, I want to say something. I always feel silly when I ask that sometimes because the subjects are so damn large. It's like if you were like painting the Sistine Chapel with Michelangelo, and he said, "Any questions?" You'd be like, "What?" Infinite questions. So sometimes, it's hard to figure out what the questions are. If anyone has a question now, let me know. Let me check my chats too, because I don't want to leave people out who prefer that. By the way, just an aside, you guys with the conversations in the chat, I think that's fantastic. Sometimes whole conversations develop in the chat. I'm very supportive of that. They've always been relevant. They've always been stuff that matters. No one's in there talking about the TV show last night. So feel free to chat away. It's completely not distracting and just brings more collaboration in. So guys, listen, I want to say a couple quick words because I know some people have to go right away. I'm going to stick around a little bit after class, not as long as I have been today, but just a little bit. Tomorrow is kind of an important day. Of course, I'm videotaping this. I'll videotape tomorrow. But you might want to be there because you might wind up having questions. It's a little more Photoshop, but I'm trying to rearrange it so that we could do a little bit HTML, CSS review. Tomorrow's Tuesday because Wednesday's the midterm. But it's 1 or 2 days in class and more than that at home. So you won't be in a rush. But I still want to know that everybody's with me because what's going to happen is we're going to move to a different subject before the midterms even do. Right? So it's going to be hard to juggle. I don't want to confuse people. Come tomorrow, warm up with a little bit more Photoshop. The thing you're going to need the most Photoshop-wise for the midterm is the crop tool because you're not going to like shapes of some of the photos. So we're going to need the crop tool. I'm going to go over that tomorrow, some other stuff, and some code. Any questions about tomorrow or Wednesday? Yeah. So, guys, I want to ask you, did Jonathan Essentia, did you guys fix that Photoshop problem? Either of
For the
you?
most part, but there is something I do want her to try a few more things, but I was
Gotcha.
waiting after class.
All right. You know, I could leave the Zoom open for a little while for you guys to, you know, collaborate. Why not? Does anybody else have anything they want to say? Because I'm gonna let them kind of take the stage a little bit so they could do their thing. I know they're doing it through chat.
Professor,
Yes,
can I leave now because I
Yeah,
have appointment with my
of course.
advisors?
You could always leave at noon. My class ends at noon.
Okay.
People
Okay. Thank
hang
you,
around
Professor.
after, but you know, you don't have to. By all means, Faik, I'll see you tomorrow.
Yeah, and Professor, actually, I emailed you on, on Thursday. Did you
Oh,
get
yeah?
that?
I
Yeah.
checked my emails on Thursday and today. Did I not reply? Because I don't remember.
No, I didn't get any reply from
Are
you.
you sending it to this class's email address?
Yeah.
Hang on. Just give me 1 second, Faik. I hate missing people's emails. I don't see anything recent from you. Nothing here. Yeah, then this is it. So you want to send it to me again?
That was actually, actually, I was just saying in that I could not join on that day my class for Thursday, and
Oh,
that's
okay.
because my internet was interrupting. That's why.
Oh, gee, that's always, look, that's a drag, I realize for you, but I'm so glad they're all videoed. So at least you could
Yeah.
watch the other day. You know,
And also, I just wanted to let you know that, actually, I ordered the MacBook Pro too,
ooh,
which will come on 22 June, I guess. So that's kind of far.
oh my God. Listen, Faik, you and
Yeah.
I will have to talk by email. I mean, you're very mature, so I think you're going to pull this off. The grades are due first week of July,
Hmm.
so we should be able to make this work.
Yeah.
But I kind of, boy, if you're spending that much money, I wish there was a way to buy a faster download. But
Yeah.
you know, you made the choice, and I know I have confidence in you.
Yeah, actually, there was not any other choice. Like all the laptops were coming so late, so I thought this will be better. So then I
Yeah,
just
a lot
clicked
of
it on.
people must be buying computers now because all kinds of people that thought they
Yeah.
could manage without it are stuck at home.
And even I did the express shipping, like which will come faster. So
All right, but you're gonna love it. You're gonna love it. They're good machines, so you're gonna like it.
yeah,
All right.
sure. Thank you, Professor.
My
Thank you so
pleasure.
much for
Yeah. Listen,
everything.
don't keep your advisor waiting. You're 3 minutes late.
Yeah. Okay,
Right.
Professor. Have a good day.
You too. Anybody else?
Professor,
Yes.
this assignment that we were doing over for due today,
Oh, I'm so
know
glad
it's-
you mentioned it.
okay, I'm done, and I'll be honest, I tried to go over the top, and my dunk didn't go in right, so I'm sending it basic.
Sure. Look, guys, you know, one reason this class has gotten so ambitious is because we're seeing each other 4 days a week. Like if you were taking me once a week, right? A couple weeks in, a simple page with a couple headlines and some text would have been kind of exciting. And that's all that I actually asked for. You know, I didn't ask for a lot. So don't feel bad. If it's bare bones, you might still get an A. That class was given, remember the assignment was given week 4. So I never asked anyone to do fancy photos. I hadn't even touched Photoshop. So don't worry about it, Andy. If I have an issue with it, I'll let you know. If anybody's grade is too low at some point, I'll let you know. You could redo it. You know, just do your best. Also, if you can't do tonight's deadline because your computer hasn't arrived or whatever reason it is, I will accept it late. I'm only giving deadlines because I don't want anyone to get lost, right? The first project was the easiest. It's class 4, by the way, if you're thinking, oh, I totally forgot. Just go to the website, look up class 4. It'll take you half an hour to do a simple version, an hour to be fancy, right? It will also tell you on the class 4 handout how to hand it in. I'm going to take a quick peek at something before I go. Give me a minute here. I'm just going to zip back to that handout myself because I haven't looked at it in a while either. And I'm going to the homework box at the end. Here's all the details, too much detail. But there's the link of where you drop your finished folder off. So I want to click the link and see how many people did it. Ooh, you guys are good. People know how to learn in here. All right, it looks like a lot of people were really early. Oh, no, not really. June dates, yeah, kind of. But this is excellent, folks. This makes me happy. Let me just get back to you guys. Excellent. Any other questions that I might be able to answer? Try to answer.
I had a question.
Yes, Omar.
Yeah, so in my desktop, the file you gave for the Photoshop and all that CC library, right? It's not like it's not working.
Okay, we had an experience together last week that maybe. What kind of computer are you on? Are you on Windows?
No, it's a Mac, Apple desktop.
And you downloaded my assets today, and you're saying they're not working?
Oh well, I downloaded like last week.
I get different assets every day.
No,
so did you look at today's assets?
No, I'm talking about the CC thing that you gave for the download Photoshops and all that.
That was instructions on how to get it, right? Is that what you're talking about?
I'm working on my PC. That's what I'm saying.
Okay, let me back up because I never gave you Photoshop, so I'm not sure what you're telling me.
But then it's not running it.
So you downloaded Photoshop, but it just won't open, you're saying?
Yes, it's saying like some code is not verified or licensed something. I don't know.
Some port is not verified or something.
Yeah, the license, like there's no license or something for because you need a license to run the Photoshop and all that, right?
Yeah, so listen, I'm going to be able to offer some support on this. I want to show you something, right? I am going back to the website. So give me a second here. Where am I? I got lost for a minute.
It's like, I know the way how to get it for free, but then...
You know how to get it for free, like the legal way we're talking about, right?
It doesn't matter if it's legal or illegal. I know
it does. It does, because I can't help support an illegal download.
It's like, it will work, but then like some part, like you said, they copy and all that, not all the function will work.
Omar, did you follow these steps? Does this look familiar to you?
Yeah, that's what I did.
That is what you did. All right, just wanted to be sure. So you did it straight up and it's still not behaving.
It's probably my PC because like sometimes Apple does that.
Right, but you're on a Mac and Adobe and Apple have always worked to be sure that they're, work well together because it's just the majority of people doing this are on Macs. So
the Mac is not normal. That's why probably change some stuff in it.
Oh, wow. So what can we do if the only thing
I probably have to change my RAM again. So
Oh, so you sound like you know a lot more about this stuff than I do, guys. Just because I'm the professor doesn't mean I know everything.
No, it's like it's a 2019 Mac PC. So
those are good.
A lot of stuff in it. So now I think like some program is not running.
Well, Photoshop, if it's a space issue, it will tell you. It basically tells you that it calls it a scratch disk.
Like,
it says your scratch disk is full.
It says there is no license on that. So I feel like.
So can I ask you something about the license?
I got in, it's banned or something?
Say again?
It's probably the account that I sign up with.
Yeah, so that's the thing. Listen to me for a minute, just so I could check something. When we first got the free Adobe account for students to use at home, like in March, this started, or April, the students everywhere were having hard times. And then we realized after a while that they weren't using their CUNY login.
No, it's CUNY login, but you have to sign in with your personal email address or something.
Nothing personal. Everything is your CUNY stuff.
Oh, okay. So probably that then.
Yeah, your username from CUNY, this is your username. This is your only username. It's going to be first name, last name with your 2 numbers that are on your ID card.
Yeah.
If you use anything else, it will not work.
Oh, okay. So it's probably that.
Probably that. Good luck. let me know. I hope it works because there was so much trouble when this started, but people have to be meticulous with those rules. That's why I offered so many different links to support. Good luck, Omar. I really don't know much about it.
So I don't know. Is it the same problem? Because right now I'm on my Mac right now, and it's working fine. I just did everything you said and all that.
So the Mac's working fine, but Photoshop still is not.
And I don't want to work on Mac because it's like it doesn't have that much like strong. I could say like it's not that strong to work with everything.
You have a different computer?
No, it's a MacBook.
Right, Macs are great. MacBooks are great for Photoshop.
It just slows down. It slows down.
Right. Listen, I want to say a few things to you. This is all I got. One, if your computer's slow, never work with anything but Photoshop open. Don't leave any other software open. Two.
I
just want to spit this out, okay, for anyone listening. Photoshop takes a lot of RAM. So if you have 4 programs open, Photoshop's going to slow down. Quit everything. The other thing is restart your computers. Most of us are stopped restarting computers. Some of us never restart the computer. Please shut down completely and restart. That's another thing. Last, throw out files you don't need or move them onto portable drives. Photoshop doesn't only use RAM, it uses empty hard drive space. So if you got less than a gigabyte or even less than many gigabytes, Photoshop's going to act worse and worse and worse. Saving documents will be slow spinning wheels of death. And you need a big empty hard drive. You need a restarted computer, which descrambles the computer. If your computer still can't handle it, you can't juggle software. Just work with Photoshop out. You sound like you know what you're doing regarding RAM and these other things. So if you got other hunches, follow them up. You may need to deinstall it completely and get in a new account if you're not sure that you followed the exact rules to get a free college account. Because I can't guess.
Yeah, I got it.
I'm very sympathetic, but there's just too many variables. And
yeah, I got it. What to do?
All right. Okay.
Thank you.
All right, folks. Is there any last questions for me, or I'm going to sign off today? Today I can't sit around and shoot the breeze. Yes, Lorenzo.
I will send you an email with my question because it's kind of a long question.
Oh, okay. All right. I'll look for it.
Thank
I'll
you.
look for it. Yeah, my pleasure. My pleasure. And anybody, if I missed your email, I apologize. I really check rather often. I don't typically check on Saturday or Sunday, but I check every other day. So, and plenty Monday to Thursday because those are our days. Any other questions for me? Comments? Anything? All right. Yes, John. Yeah.
You said you're going to leave the Zoom chat open. You can close it. I took care of it. It's done.
Oh yeah, great, excellent.
Yeah.
Because for me to get the video up, I have to close actually I could stop it and then it starts to process the video. It takes a half hour, then it takes another half an hour for YouTube to do it. So I always like to get that started so anyone who wants to look at least have it by 1:30, which is sort of cool. Thanks, Jonathan. So can you give me a synopsis? What was it?
For some reason, her workspace wasn't loading properly. So she had to, at the beginning of class, she had to open it in a different workspace and then go back to the essentials.
Weird.
But I think it was also that same issue from last week, the graphics processing.
Wow. So, I get the feeling there's got to be people around planet Earth questioning that one issue.
I'm sure there are. I'm going to look into it because that's starting to get weird.
It is starting to get weird. I hope Adobe's on the case. Like both Adobe and Apple and Google too, they really take their time about addressing issues. It's like not until they get like 1,000 people with the same comment.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, thanks a lot. Your help's been
Yes, thank you so much.
notable. He's good.
Yes. Bye, everyone.
All right, bye, everybody.
Bye, Jonathan.
I'll see you all tomorrow morning. See you guys.
Good afternoon, Professor.
Bye.
You too. Bye-bye, everybody.